Welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. I'm Draves,
And I'm Case.
coming to you in episode 46. We're going to do a Batman extravaganza, and we might touch on a couple other things too. So, Case, we've both
We'll
seen
dabble.
the Bat.
Yeah, finally it was available for me to see on the streaming services. I almost said Disney Plus, but I totally realized too late that it's not on Disney Plus. Yes,
Yeah,
we
it's
did see the Batman. All right, good show.
La Rata. What is it? La Rata.
All right.
La,
Oh my God, that was the
Lada.
biggest leap of logic, by the way.
Anyways, let's walk through the whole thing. Did you like it, Case?
As we were talking earlier, I did like it. I am debating on, I feel it might be my favorite. I said favorite Batman movie, but maybe it's my favorite portrayal of Batman. So Nolan's Dark Knight was a good movie, so I don't want to just like throw that under the bus, but I feel that this Batman was a better portrayal of Batman, in my opinion.
This was probably the closest Batman we've seen to the animated series.
Ooh, could be
In
true.
terms of stylistically, like his detective skills being played up and things like that.
I am still, when you say stylistically, I tried talking to you without text messaging this when I was watching the movie. I still don't understand the technology in this universe because they have cell phones, but everything that Batman had was very like CRT, not even CRT, like old school terminal screens.
Yeah, well, there's still terminals on modern hardware.
It's very, yeah, but in his dashboard and his car, and like the cops seemed to have more retro gear. It's weird. It's a weird mixture of like a retro Mad Max Fury Road feel to it, and but also with like more common technologies. It's weird because even like when he was doing his he would scan in well, I guess don't know why we're jumping into this, but he had like contacts that had lenses. He has lenses because contacts that had cameras in them that he could print things from, and the computers that could do stuff. But those computer screens were still very like Linux based, prompty CLI tools, and then behind him is a big, huge flat screen TV. But he's also living in what looked like Notre Dame. It was
It was very gothic home, yeah.
yes, and it was like this weird mixture of like, oh, this is this movie taking place in the 1800s? No, wait, is this cyberpunk? I don't know. It was a very interesting mixture of current technology and old technology. I did just, while I was saying this, come to one conclusion. Maybe all of his stuff has basic screens, like his cars and stuff, because he assumes they're going to get destroyed. So it's a way to save money.
Or he doesn't like he buys everything secondhand because he doesn't want like paper trail.
Maybe, yeah. I'm just thinking if you're going to be driving a Batmobile through an explosion, maybe you don't want to have high-end OLED screens and just have some CRTs. But even when he calls, oh man, way ahead in the story, but when he tries to call Alfred, he calls a landline instead of calling Alfred's cell phone, which we know everyone has cell phones in this city. It's like those weird things like that. I'm like, well, that's weird.
Maybe he tried his cell phone.
Maybe they just didn't show that. How did you like the movie? Because I answered I liked the movie, then I just went off on a tangent.
Wait, maybe there's no cell service in the Wayne Manor, so like you have to use the landline.
Oh yeah, maybe he has a huge. Well, no, they're in a tower. In this, he was in a tower inside of downtown Gotham City because they showed the tower burning, and that's where Alfred was. And that's where he called. Like he wasn't in Wayne Manor.
Good point.
And we didn't see Wayne Manor. Anyhow, how did you like the movie?
I liked it. I think that it's definitely a deviation because I think what we've seen is, we've sort of seen Bale's Batman, which was kind of like this hyper reality based by Batman, but
He was
know,
more Batman if Batman got mixed in with MI6 Mission Impossible.
yeah, kind of. And then I feel like we had Batflick,
Which
and
he never had his own Batman movie, so we don't even really know that Batman.
yeah, and it's a shame because I think he could have actually done really well with the role, but I don't think that the other things were around.
Affleck is a really good actor, but the script he was given in those movies was not something for him to act at.
Yeah, and I also feel like he did a lot of work to try to look like the comic version of Batman. And I think kind of got let down a little bit, so that sucks. But
So we talked to bring it up. You said the comic book version of Batman, And you talked last episode about what's that TV series on Amazon you talked about?
Halo.
No. The one you liked. Jack Reacher.
Mm-hmm.
And you like, he's just like, in the reason the movie version with Tom Cruise didn't really tie back to the books because Jack Reacher is supposed to be this like brick of a man, right? When he's punching you with sledgehammers.
It's just a change they made.
Sure.
They just felt like,
But my question is, do you think Batman, like if you're gonna make describe Batman to someone and the type of person that should play him, do you envision a huge brick of a man or someone who's more Bruce Lee, like bouncing around, agility based type person?
I think Christian Bale is what I picture now. But if you
So-
if you look at the comics and you look at how he's built and you look how Ben Affleck was built for that movie, like he looks great. And also I thought when having to play Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck actually did a pretty good job. Like it was actually the Batman arcs in the movie that were like really messed up. But the actual Bruce Wayne parts of it, I thought he pulled off really well.
Again,
And
Affleck's a good actor.
yeah, so I mean, we'll never see the ceiling of what Affleck could have done with the role.
Until the 20 years from now when they do the multiverse of the Infinite Crisis multiverse, and he has to come back to be Batman again.
I guess. So that's where I think we are.
That's where we are.
We were at this Batman didn't live up to its potential, and
The
now we got a
Affleck one.
standalone movie. Yeah, and I think that what we got now was we got Pattinson in a role, and actually it's weird because Pattinson kind of has like the most ninja-like build of like the Batman people that have played him recently, but this was the least ninja-like Batman.
Well, I think that was. I think part of it was on purpose too, right? It was
More of a
for those
brawler.
who don't know, the Batman is set 2 years into his Batman career, right? So he might
Yeah,
have
it's his-
still was that
It's junior years Batman.
junior years, yeah. So Batterson might have been playing up like, hey, he's still like not comfortable in the suit yet, or the suit is still not. It's still prototypey, right? So it's still like stiff, and he's not going to be like running around and doing all the ninja stuff yet. Maybe he hasn't even met Ra's al Ghul yet, and so it's just like him being taught boxing. Because like he wasn't really doing many like backflips or jumping around type things. I don't know how to describe fighting apparently in
I
this
mean,
movie.
it was very. You're right. It was very basic brawling type fighting.
And I think that's what I was asking is like, is that more of a is that Batman style? Is more so it's weird because you have like the 86 and the 89 Batman, which was more of his fighting style was I use gadgets and then punch someone, right? It wasn't then the suit didn't allow to do much, and then you kept on going a little further and further into like the comic book esque like over the top combat, and then you went back to realism with Nolan, where it was a little more like I'm a trained fighter, and now you're back to I just gonna punch people and I'm bulletproof, so I'll just punch them harder.
Yep.
But I think it also might have been the suit, right? 'Cause the suit was super blocky, and he was bulletproof in that suit.
I gotta tell you, the fighting style and like that stuff, that was actually the part that was very difficult for me. It was the only sort of like stain on the movie in some ways. I'm sure there's another harder, but like all that exists in this movie, for all it is, you have this Batman that like when he's walking down the steps, you can hear him coming.
Ooh, yes.
Like the entire time, like you wouldn't hear Batman coming.
Well, I think he was doing it on
He'd be there.
purpose. He was doing that on purpose, though. It was intimidation, right? It was my goal is to be so scary because that was the whole point of the opening of the movie, right? They were showing like the bat symbol, and these people were doing crime. They looked up at the bat symbol, and they looked at the shadows, and be like, "Oh fuck, he's out doing crime now. I'm gonna run away." Even if he's not there, I'm just so scared that this figure is going to come out of the shadows and beat the shit out of me. So I'm running away. And I think that was like the concept was, oh, you won't hear me, but if you do hear me, you're screwed type is what they're going for. But that was one thing I loved about this movie was the sound. I love the sound of him when he wanted to be heard walking down. There's a character from fantasy books, Driz Duorin series, in Fantasy Realms that had like magical gear that like if he wanted to you couldn't hear him if you wanted to it all like would chime and stuff, and it was like used the same way, like where you never knew if he was there, but if he wanted you to know he was there and be intimidated, he would like turn the spell off, and he would like thump thump like walk up to the person and scare the heck out of them. And I think that's what it was going for, and I loved the sound editing they did with that and that one very computer dubsteppy Batman theme that they had going through the whole movie. And I thought they used that at the right times really well. You were saying.
I mean, I just feel like this Batman. I mean, we only see it once in like the Nolan trilogy, but like Batman just going into like a club and fighting. Whereas I feel like this Batman just put himself in tactically bad situations a lot.
Again, he's supposed to be a dumb junior Batman.
Yeah, but I feel like this dumb junior Batman would have just been killed.
I think that was kind of the concept was he needed to learn quickly because he was doing dumb things. I did like the scene with the twin bodyguards though, at the ice club, whatever it's called, where he would knock on the door and the one twin would answer and he's like, I'm Batman, and he would like close the door and then both twins would be there. And then like the first time he beat them up and the second time I think it was Catwoman the second time, but like they just kept on getting beat up more and more and more, but they would always like answer the door and be like, oh, let me get my brother, and they get beat up. It's probably Twiddly and Twiddly Dumb DC villains.
So I would have just liked to have seen him with a little bit more ninja skills.
See, but I wonder, so the reason I like this movie, and again, this might just be a freshness because of what we've seen from the Batman character over the last 20, 30, 40, 80 years, is, and I was talking to someone else about this. This movie was a drama, like a procedural drama, basically. It was more about the slow burn, the air quoting riddles, the puzzle solving, those type of things, and the action was kind of like, oh, we need this because it's Batman, we know, but so we'll throw a little action scene here. Where like other movies were action movies with Batman in them, and this one was the first one I think it was more like a drama with Batman in it. And so I do feel like you that the action scenes might have been a little bit second wind to the rest of the story, even though
Maybe.
it was at the very end where he shot grappling hooks on the two legs of the two villains, and then he jumped off the ledge and pulled them up like, into the air, and then he like flipped around and like kicked somebody. That was pretty dope. But then of course he gets punched and punches people and gets a shotgun to his face. But no, I get what you're saying. I think in this world it's more, this is pre his like, I'm going to visit the ninja community on top of a glacier to learn ninja skills. This was more of the, I'm only 18 and I learned how to punch people. Batman, 20, whoever his age may be.
Probably like 30 something.
Probably. To you, in this movie,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying we touched on, we didn't talk about the villain.
Was there a villain? Oh yeah, the Riddler. Was the villain a good villain? I want to know your opinion.
I think it was. I really liked the way they did it. They made the Riddler kind of this alt-right, like sort of like villain. I thought they made a villain that was like kind of realistic in today's world. It was kind of really. That was maybe been the best part of the movie.
Yeah, well, I think there's a few things I liked about the villain too. And this is gonna be a little spoily, but whatever. We always do spoily stuff. One, the villain was inspired by Batman, which is interesting. Taken the wrong way, right? Like Batman was trying to stand up for one thing, but the villain totally missed the point of what Batman was trying to attempt. But also, I feel Riddler was like not as smart as he thinks he was. Like the riddles weren't that creative. They were never like that difficult. But I feel like he thought he was smarter than he was. So he thought he was being creative. And that's why at the end, when he thought Batman was working with him the whole time, is because he's like, oh, that's obvious. We're both smart people. But I did like Riddler, and it did definitely remind me of a right-wing nutcase. I actually, whenever at the end, all the copycat Riddlers, like, and they're all online sharing that video, I was like, oh man, fucking this probably would happen like today if someone went this crazy. Like they probably would have a following on some social media thing and have 500 people, and then some of those people will be willing to be like, yeah, we'll take guns down and shoot people. Sucks. Yay, society.
I think that this was like a very strategic villain. He had a plan. He was trying to execute it. And the other thing too is you say like his riddles were easy to solve, but if his riddles didn't get solved, his plan actually couldn't play out.
Well, his plan, no matter what, his plan would have worked. Period. Like the riddles never needed to be solved.
Yeah, but he was trying to lure the Batman out, right? Like
no, all he was trying to do is work with Batman to kill the mob guy who never left his house. His name escapes me right now. Falcone. Remember that was the whole like Riddler was like bring the rat into the sun, bring the guy into the light, and that's when he sniped him. And at the end, when he's going to talk to Riddler, Riddler's like, we're working together. You figured out the riddles and you brought him out to the light to me. And Batman's like, no, that was nothing anything to do with the Riddler. That was riddle. I just brought him out because I was arresting him. Right? It wasn't Batman solving the riddle that did that. He was doing something else, and it just happened to coincide. And then the bombs that blew up to take out the walls, you didn't have to solve a riddle for that. They just went off.
I mean, like I thought the whole thing was like he was trying to work with the Batman, so he had to make the riddles like somewhat solvable.
I don't think, but I'm saying the riddles that Batman solved didn't cause the action that the riddle was tied to happen, right? He killed the mayor without the riddle being solved. He killed the police chief without the riddle being solved. The Falcone, he sniped him when he stepped outside with Batman. He killed the guy with the neck collar on without Batman solving the riddle. Like, that was a scene where, like, in a normal movie, Batman would have somehow figured out how to get that bomb off of his neck and like by solving the riddle, right? But Batman didn't solve the riddle; he got blown up instead. And then Batman, at the very last second, figured out that, oh, I should pull the carpet up, but it was too late, and everything blew up and flooded the city. So technically, Batman solved everything too late.
Hmm.
In fact, the only reason he even solved the carpet one was that he happened to be a cop that liked him, was working as watching over the crime scene, whose dad happened to be a carpet layer. Because Batman didn't know that Tool was a carpet tucker that he murdered the
But I
mayor
mean,
with.
there's like some chance happenstance that happens in all these things, and I'm fine with that.
I mean, I think, don't get me wrong, I think Riddler was a great character. I just think they played him in a way like it was supposedly supposed to be, oh, he's this brilliant person. And he's not dumb. I'm not saying he's a dumb person either. I'm just saying he's not as smart. I'm just saying there's a lot of hardcore right wing people who think they're smarter than they really are. And I think that's what they were playing off of in that. Even like the Joker joke at the end about, the friends joke was like, that's a kid's riddle. It's not a real riddle. So I think Joker was mocking him also at the same time. Or I'm reading way too in this. But the question I was going to ask you, Criminal is cool. Really, his whole idea was vengeance, and Batman's whole idea was vengeance. And Batman realizes at the end when one of the copycats is like, I am vengeance, it's like Batman says. He's like, oh, shit. These people are copying me, not just copying the Riddler.
Yeah.
And then Batman's like, this is a whole concept I want to talk about in the Batman. This might be a bigger question about Batman. I feel this movie, the whole part of the story, underlying theme was Bruce Wayne just basically went all in on Batman. He basically stopped going out, stopped caring about any of his corporations, and just spent money on Batman, went out every night fighting crime and thinking that if he fought enough crime, he could change the city. But overall, as even like his voiceover, which you hated, states, he's like, nothing has really changed. Why hasn't things changed yet? I'm going out and doing this thing and nothing's changing. And then he kind of inspired copycats to also do vengeance. And at the end of the movie, it was kind of I need to be more than just vengeance. I need to also bring hope to the city. And it feels like that's the opportunity for the Bruce Wayne character to come out and be like, hey, I'm going to start paying attention to my dad's funds that people have been using for their own gains over the last, whatever years. And this led to a conversation of Batman in general. Is Bruce Wayne Batman, or is Batman Bruce Wayne? As in, is Bruce Wayne the fake character that Batman plays just to like get people off the scent, or is Bruce Wayne actually Batman? As in, like, if you think about Spider-Man and Peter Parker, obviously Peter Parker is Spider-Man, right? Because the stories are all about Peter Parker, and he just dresses as Spider-Man to stop crime. But Batman tends to be more stories about Batman, and Bruce Wayne is like the secret identity. And I'm trying to, I had this conversation today for like an hour with someone about which is it for Batman. I actually feel that Bruce Wayne isn't the actual real person, and Batman is the alter ego. But this person, and apparently this is an argument in the comic book world where they think Batman is the real character and Bruce Wayne is the alter ego. As in, Batman could just get rid of Bruce Wayne and it wouldn't be a problem.
I think that like Bruce Wayne should do everything. There should just be no Batman. It should be Bruce Wayne just like being a baller, spending money, and saving Gotham.
He should be.
I want to see a storyline actually like that.
Well, that's what I would. So there's who knows if they're gonna make sequels of these movies. This is in like they're not part of the Tide universe, but this would be an interesting sequel, right? Because he realizes hope. So the whole story could be about how he rebuilds Bruce Wayne as like this baller, going around spending money, trying to like rebuild. Because in most comic books, he owns a bunch of orphans, places where kids get taken care of who don't have parents. He owns a bunch of those. He puts a lot of money into like helping out, the community. And that would be an interesting flip. Is like that's the next story where it's like he's being Bruce Wayne and Batman's the side gig, and maybe that's how he meets Robin, right? Because he's doing all this charity work. And I think that would be a really interesting story to see more of like a Bruce Wayne focused Batman movie, as odd as that might sound.
It's like maybe a less exciting story, but it's one that I think would be like.
Well, it doesn't have to be less exciting, right? It doesn't have to be less exciting. It might not have as many punches and kicks and flipsy dips. Like there was a comic run. Oh man, I can't remember the name. I remember. I want to say it's the Court of the Owls. I think Court of the Owls. I think is what it's called. And it was more about like in Gotham itself, the rich people had a secret society, right? And they were the ones really controlling Gotham. And it started off at that one where it was like Bruce Wayne was kind of a rich person and was like using that way of getting into this secret cult thing and, being part of, actually I think the whole Waynes started it, if I remember correctly in the book. So like the Waynes started back in the day with the other groups to like control Gotham. And so he was technically part of the Court of the Owls, and it was him playing up that side. And eventually, Batman got involved when it was later in the story, but there was like a good chunk of it where it was more Bruce Wayne focused and him like trying to be like, wait, there's this secret society that my dad started that is controlling Gotham, and like doing all that research and stuff like that.
Court of Owls would be a really great follow-up to all this, just saying.
Yeah, I think it would be. But again, I don't know if this, I have no idea what DC's thinking when it comes to like the whole non-universe based movies, because they had the Joker, right? I know that's not getting sequels. Is the Batman going to get sequels? I don't know. What do you think of the Joker in this Batman?
It's hard to tell. I mean, it was such a small part of it.
Oh, there's a deleted scene that's like 5 minutes long. If you wanted to see more of it.
Oh, I guess. Yeah, but I mean, if it's deleted, it's not canon.
Sure, they could change anything. I mean, it's like you barely even see him in this. You see him more in the deleted scene, but you don't see him in the released scene. It is one of those things like if you, Venom, not a good movie, but they showed Carnage at the very end of it, and they changed his look and feel by the time the next movie came around. So nothing's set in stone, of course.
Well, one thing I did like was the fake out at the end where you think that the Riddler knows it's Bruce Wayne, that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah. I think it was really good, well done too, because it wasn't ever said out loud. Like, because Batman's in his hideout, and there's that wall of stuff, and there's like pictures of Wayne at his dad's death, and the true Riddler at his death, right? Because he was there at the orphanage, but there was like lots of words around it, scratched into the wall, like I've been watching you. I forget they were like I'm watching you. I know who you are, and like no one ever actually said anything. And I was sitting there, and like you could be there. I mean, like, wait, is this all hints that he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman? And then I'm like sitting there, like, is the video that's locked gonna say that Bruce Wayne's Batman? And so like, but no one. And I love how they played it off as like if you're paying attention to the walls, there's like hints that he does know it, but then of course it's a fake out. Even like Batman thinks he knows it until I forget what he says at the very end. Because even the words when they first starts talking to Riddler are very well speaking like, oh, I know who you are, just was pretty cool. But again, so the question I felt the one thing about this movie is very long. It's a 3-hour long movie, and I actually almost feel there's 2 movies in there. There's the first half catching Riddler, and then there's the second half of stopping the copycats. And I'm wondering if that could have been broken up into 2 stories.
I mean, the movie's long.
Yes. Good input there. Do you think it was a good length for what they were trying to attempt? Because they did a lot of long shots, a lot of like pauses.
I mean, they're trying to build like I feel like a lot of movies focus on Batman exclusively. This movie focuses on Batman as a character within Gotham,
right,
more than any other movie we've seen to date.
Speaking of that character building, we never talked about Catwoman.
Yes, correct.
I'm saying, do you think she was played well? I think they never called her Catwoman.
I thought Zoe Kravitz was great, and there's a story that she wanted to play Catwoman in the 3rd Nolan movie, and was told that she was too urban to play the role.
Well, we know what that really means, but that's
I mean. If that's what happened, I'm very disappointed in Christopher Nolan. It's not what happened. I am not disappointed in Christopher Nolan. But I'm glad she got a chance to play the role, and she got the chance to play the role in like a movie that holds its own. It's not like Batman vs Superman. It's not like a bad version of the Batman.
No, yeah, totally. It's up there. I still think it's one of my favorite Batman portrayals. Maybe not Bruce Wayne portrayals, but Batman portrayals, because Bruce Wayne's not in it. No, I thought she was really good too, and I just love the fact. I think I don't know, and I kind of maybe should rewatch it. Did anyone call Batman out loud other than Riddler? And no one called Catwoman at all. I know that. Just like this didn't use. They weren't like, oh, you're Catwoman. You know how like they always have that moment where it's like, name that costume person. And I don't even think Riddler was called Riddler ever. It was and I felt that felt more realistic to me They never like just named themselves. I also
Yeah.
love the fact that when Catwoman was leaving on the motorcycle, she had cat carriers built into her motorcycle for her pet cats that would ride on the back of the motorcycle. That was cool.
I mean, they did subtle things to make her like a cat, like the way
Yeah.
her nails were. And
What was I say? Her nails, her first baklava, it's not bakavla had like little like ears on it. She had a bunch of cats in her house, of course, but it was not like
the baklava she was wearing.
yeah, her
she was,
baklava covered in honey and nuts.
yeah.
And lots of filo dough. Very odd.
Yeah.
I was like, this doesn't fit the rest of the scene.
Yeah, it was weird that she was just wearing a baklava like that. But anyways,
Kavla. Yeah, so I thought she was really good. And I love the fact that they tied her to Falcone as a eliminated daughter, which explained how she could just walk in to the club, why she was at the club. That was a nice touch. And the whole like again, Batman being like she was like, oh, I'm gonna be more like you. I'm gonna go kill him. And he's like, no, that's not what I mean when I say vengeance. Like vengeance is like we're gonna capture them and put them in jail. So she was buying into like the vengeance is what we need to do. And so Batman had to stop her a few times and teach her, just be like, no, don't use a gun. I like there was a scene where Batman and Gordon were, I forget where they're walking into the orphanage, I think, and Gordon pulled his gun out, and Batman's like, no guns. And he's like, that's your rule, not mine. I was like, all right, that's pretty good. All right, now I'm going to put a big question for you.
What else can we talk about this movie?
I have a very big question for you.
Okay, I'm going to say riddle me this.
Riddle me this. Anti-Batmobile or pro-Batmobile or I don't care Batmobile? Of all the Batmobiles, of all the Batmobile movies, what does this Batmobile sit with you for Batmobiling?
It's a good question. I still think that the Nolan Batmobile is the only one that makes sense, except for the fact that there's no way you could keep something like that secret.
What are you talking about? The sense as in whenever it breaks down, it can shoot a motorcycle out of the front of it?
Yeah. What else would you want?
Just saying, that's kind of illogical. A motorcycle whose front wheel spins so you can go up side of buildings.
I just feel like a rocket launcher would take out that Batmobile very easily.
I agree.
So like a very armored Batmobile makes a lot of sense.
But he hasn't come up against anyone else that has armor yet. Again, Junior Batman. Anyhow, what about like compared to say the '89 Batmobile, which is a long black phallic shaped thing that when it tried to make a turn had to shoot a grappling hook out the side to grab the post because it can't make turns.
I mean, it fit the art style of that movie.
Sure, I mean it's pretty. I'm not really hating on it.
It's a very. I mean, like how do you make an Art Deco car, like an Art Deco superhero car? And I think they did a good job.
Well, I mean, it's also the animated series kind of built off of that too, right? They had the same style of that long Batmobile. But to me, I think this is the thing we mean you're discussing. You mentioned this is like a while ago. You're like, we could build that car, right?
Yes.
And I agree with you. I mean, maybe not. Well, I guess we could do the flame stuff, nitrous. But anyhow, we could definitely build that car. But I think what really made me like that car a lot was there's a lot of these little scenes, and this is stuff you talked about earlier with his big boots stomping. Was the first time you saw the Batmobile. Penguin was like shooting at Catwoman and stuff, and then the Batmobile turned on, and it was just like a red heater in the front of the Batmobile started to like glow as it was like heating up, and it seemed like itself was a monster from a horror movie. And Penguin's like, what the fuck is this? And then ran for it. I thought that was like really cool how they used it as an extension of the fear that Batman's trying to bring to the Gotham criminal world. So I thought that was well done. I mean, so I actually enjoyed it. Don't know how much I liked the chase scene of 400 tractor trailers falling over and him luckily having a ramp that falls in front of him to jump through it all. And it also led me to the question, does Batman not care about civilians in his pursuit of stopping a criminal?
Why do you ask?
I'm just saying in this specific movie, on that chase scene, so many people died in those car wrecks that were caused.
Yeah. Batman's kind of a menace.
That's what I'm getting at, right? He's a menace to society.
And that's why I think that the Ben Affleck version of Batman brought one thing to Batman that no other Batman has brought, which is that
a dead Robin.
What would happen if Batman just didn't give a fuck anymore? Have you ever just wondered? I've wondered all the time.
He'd become Elon Musk.
I have this other friend who every time Batman kills somebody, he's like, no, Batman cannot kill. And then I have to keep pointing out that actually in the comics he kills people all the time.
Yes.
Um, and you can never use that level of violence without killing a lot of people.
Yeah,
Okay,
even
like
even even if you're like discounting his physical hand and not pull the trigger, there's a lot of things he does that ends up killing people.
I mean, just leaving the Joker alive killed so many people.
Well, or just like in the one scene, it's like the guy throws a bomb at him and he punches, like kicks it back to the. Not in this movie. This is in the '89 one. Like tries to blow him up and he just like sticks it back on the guy. It's like well, technically it's the guy's fault for having the bomb in his hand, but also Batman kind of killed him at the same time. Stuff like that,
Well,
right?
I mean, like, let me
And the
like
in the well, even in the
what-
Batman versus
you can't.
Superman.
Batman versus Superman, he's just actively killing people. Okay,
Yes,
but like,
yes,
even like Bale's Batman, okay, who's like, we can't kill anybody because that's what separates us from them. He then just goes and blows up an entire like the first thing that Bale's Batman basically does is commit an act of terrorism. and like and then so it kills a bunch of people. And then the other thing too is like, look, you could not punch and kick and like do all the like do that to people.
he's not killing them. He's just making their lives so difficult because they're gonna have to have high medical bills. Probably some of them can't walk anymore. Might not have limbs.
Batman, and not only that, Batman's been supporting the prison industrial complex for years. No one talks about it.
Well, the
Have we, have
Arkham
we
only
done?
exists because of him.
Have we done a cross-sectional study as to the demographics of people that like is he racially just? We don't know. We don't know these things. There's no transparency. And when you really, really think about it, okay, you cannot use that level of violence without killing some people. You just can't. Look, if you punch 1,000 people, one of them's gonna have some defect, right?
Well, not even a defect.
That
You can hit somebody, a normal human being, and they could fall and hit their head, causing bleeding on the brain, which will kill them. Like it can happen, right?
so
I mean, people have got seriously hurt playing football with super pads on and not getting punched in the face. So
see, that's why Batman kind of has to be a ninja if he's gonna not kill, because he's got to avoid a lot of conflict too.
there'll be a lot of times when he like kicks someone, but then catches them so their head doesn't hit the ground. Like so, always show it.
Or like before he gets into a fight, he's like, "Okay, before we get started, is everyone wearing a helmet?"
I brought helmets for everyone. Here's some boxing gloves.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, he tases someone for like a good 5 minutes in this movie. Like he puts him up against the wall and just tases them. And like that's
Oh yeah.
probably
Like,
not
tasing
safe.
somebody has an arrhythmia or something. You don't know.
Yeah, maybe they have a pacemaker.
That's why anybody who comes to me and says like, no, Batman never kills. I'm like, oh really? Have you read the comics? And then
Yeah.
that same friend of mine who's like, no, Batman has never killed a human being. And then like I pointed out like, oh, but you love Frank Miller's Dark Knight. He's like, oh yeah, I love that. Turns out he didn't read it because he kills Joker at the end of it.
Yep.
And by the way, the killing joke, arguable, but it's heavily implied that he kills Joker at the end of that.
It is.
And there's many canon Batmans that kill.
But he doesn't kill.
I mean, let's think about it. Batfleck kills a lot of people.
Not only
Batfleck
depends.
canon. He was by DC.
He definitely kills a lot of people, and he kills them in two ways. One with his own hands, or his car crashing through their faces. But also, it was implied that if he brands you and you go to jail, you die because they kill anyone who has the Batman branding in the jail.
Yeah, but like the Ben Affleck Batman did not care about killing.
Oh no,
people.
I agree with you. I'm just saying, even if you want to argue like those guys are fine that he crashed his car through, he didn't, and those guys are fine that blood splattered on the wall whenever he punched through them against the wall and their head hit the wall first. And if you want to argue that, he still willingly sends people to their death by branding them when they go to jail. So that's like not like oh, I was accidentally didn't mean to punch the guy that hard. It was like I know you're gonna die when I do this. In fact, that was one of the things I worried about. Is like when the first Captain America was first being seen on movie in MCU, I worried that they would make him more like Batman. Like I only use my shield and my fists. I don't use guns. And like the first thing he did, he picked up guns and like killed people. I'm like okay, good, because Captain America was a soldier in a war. Like he used guns. It's just
Yep.
it's like how it
And
is.
so, largely just to humiliate this friend who keeps on harping on the non-violent Batman theory. As far as I can tell, there's only two Batman storylines where he's never killed. Batman and Robin, the comics,
Right.
which we can all take it or leave it, right?
Well, it's target audience.
And then Batman the animated series.
Well, I haven't watched it in a while, but the Batman 69, I want to say 69, but I don't know if it's the right time period. The 60s Batman or 70s Batman, whenever that Batman was out, 68, 66, 60, Batman 66. The old TV show where it was like whap, pow, zap.
Yeah.
I don't think he killed anyone in that. And I think all the people that he went whap, pow, zap, you would see them later. So even if you punched them wrong. So I think he might not killed anybody in that series either.
Mm,
Whap, pow, pow.
I mean, do we know?
I mean,
Do we go back?
I'm thinking about
Did we go
well,
and phone up? Did we go and phone up all those henchmen's families and made sure that they made it home okay?
yes, we did. I would argue Batman has killed Robin.
When did he kill Robin?
Well, you go to an underage person who has no parents and get him involved in a practice where bad guys are going to want to shoot you, and you dress him in the bright colored costume while you wear all black.
That is kind of messed up, yeah.
Right? He's like basically getting like a 12-year-old to be target practice so that he can sneak up on the bad guys. And remember, the reason he has multiple Batmans is because when they get to a certain age, they all leave because they're like, holy fuck, this is dumb. I'm going to go be Nightwing where I can wear armor, or I'm going to, well,
and use those metal sticks that also likely kill people.
yes, well, Nightwing doesn't care about killing people.
Wait, does Nightwing kill people?
Yes, he does. Nightwing kills people, and then Red Hood was also a Robin who Joker, I think thought to get killed, and he became a bad guy, and then now he's a good guy, but he's a good guy. He's like a Punisher type character, right? So he kills bad guys. He uses guns, which is really odd whenever you have a young son or daughter who's getting into Batman, and it's like, who's Red Hood? And you're like, why does he have a big Gatling gun? I'm like, let me talk to you about violence. So he kills people. What other Batmans become? The other Robins. Anyhow, I'm just saying, Batman is definitely not against the death of people around him or to the criminals.
I'm not gonna lie, Case.
Yes.
Batman's kind of sus.
I'm telling you, yes. I mean, he's a billionaire who fucking builds himself gear to go punch poor people.
We just use the F word twice in this podcast, which means I'm pretty sure we lost the clean rating.
Well, if you're trying to talk about Batman, you're going to lose the clean rating because, he's a messed up dude.
'Cause
Because he's dark. I mean, this is a good example. This movie itself is a good example. Instead of taking all the money his dad put aside to help Gotham rebuild, he ignored that, spent money to make a killer car, and then drive it at high speeds down a road and flip a gas tanker to kill a bunch of people that just were trying to get to work that day.
Well, wait, hang on. What happened to the driver of the gas tanker?
He's dead. Like, in theory, if Batman was supposed to be saving people, wouldn't he have stopped his car and let Penguin get away so he could get people out of the burning fireball that he created?
Or like be like, I'm the greatest detective in the world. I'll find him later.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't need to.
Well, Penguin wasn't even hiding because when he goes to get Falcone later, Penguin's in the club.
Yeah.
He didn't need to catch him at that moment. In fact, remember, the only reason he was trying to get the Penguin is because he solved the riddle wrong. Because he was like, oh, a rat with wings is a penguin. And then Penguin's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then that's when he realized the worst clue in this movie, which was, oh, El Rato sounds like URL. And then he went to that website and talked to Riddler over the website. So Batman.
I actually like that riddle.
But I'm saying he messed it up. Batman got the riddle wrong and killed people in the process of getting the riddle wrong to get Penguin, and then just left Penguin there. It's not like remember, they both drove away, and Penguin was still tied up. So it wasn't like they took him to jail. The guy that was doing a drug deal in a warehouse with drugs, they're like, well, okay, you're free to go. And one of them was a cop, like Gordon. Like, that'd be the biggest drug bust of his career, I guarantee it, if they would have just turned Penguin in.
Everything just.
Batman.
Everything just.
Batman just wants to punch people. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Batman's kind of sus. He causes a lot of collateral damage, and no one talks about it. It's like, oh, he doesn't kill, but like a lot of people seem to die because of him, even if he doesn't necessarily like directly kill them.
So there is a comic. I only read the first arc of it. I believe it was called The White Knight, and it did do part of that. What the story you're talking about is there was some drug on the market that made Joker not be insane. And so then he like basically became mayor eventually, I think is what happened. But it was basically this whole concept of look at all the damage Batman causes this city constantly. It's like you blame me for this, for doing all these things, but Batman causes more damage and like has like all these record, like there's like a whole record sheet of like all the damage that Batman's done to the city and all the like deaths that have caused this by collateral damage. And there's like some like when he's running for mayor, he actually like gets they use Clayface to control people, I believe, or something like that. And they get them to like do a robbery, and Batman like destroys a building trying to catch all of them. And he's like, "Look, like right here, it's happening right as I'm trying to do this talk." But it's all about like making everyone hate Batman because of the collateral damage he does to the area. And then Joker becomes mayor. I think he becomes mayor. I can't remember. There's also 2 Harley Quinns in that comic. If everyone wondered.
I mean, so like if you think about it, the most effective thing Batman could do to save lives would just to be make sure that Joker never actually escaped from Gotham, from Arkham.
Why doesn't he spend money on Arkham to keep it secure? Like, why doesn't he build like the raft? And that's an MCU reference. Like, why is Arkham so easy to break out of?
Like it happens all the time.
It seems like he should be like, should probably like take some of his billions of dollars and some of his cool gear and, maybe help them out.
Seems like a good thing to do.
And that's the thing I never understood too. So there's Blackgate and there's Arkham in Batman world.
Yeah, well, Blackgate's a prison and Arkham is like an
insane
asylum.
Yeah.
Oh, but one thing that was kind of cool was the kind of like the implication that he might not be entirely mentally well. Like he may have inherited some mental health issues from his mom.
Oh yeah.
That was like a kind of interesting way of doing things and going about things and all of that. And I think it would be really cool if we find out that like his mom was obsessed with bats, which is why he's obsessed with bats.
So there was a story, a comic book where they explored her being insane before, but I can't remember which one it was. I almost asked you what Martha Wayne's first name was because I couldn't remember.
Well, it was Martha. Didn't you know from the Zack Snyder movie?
That's why I stopped talking about it because I was like, wait a minute. Oh, sorry. It was actually in the Court of Owls. Okay. She went insane. And so in the Court of Owls storyline, which this could all tie back to could we make a Court of Owls sequel? She's pregnant with a second child. And the Court of Owls caused it to become prematurely born, which sends her down a spiral. And she spends time at the asylum trying to like recover from losing her child. So I swear I was like, I know I read this somewhere where she was in an insane asylum.
Court of Owls is so good. I hope they do it. By the way, think about how many Talons that Batman killed.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're not really dying, right? They're sleeping. So you wake them up.
I just don't think that that's ever really thought about. Are they alive? Do they have hopes, dreams, aspirations?
Yes. I'm tempted to read Court of Owls again, by the way, as we're talking about it.
You think all those henchmen that Bruce Wayne killed in Batman Begins, don't you think they had families? People that missed them?
There was only 12.
I just want to tell you that the insurance benefits to widows of henchmen, I don't think it's very good.
Do you think there's different medical plans for the different leader? I want to go. I'm probably gonna be a henchman for Joker because he's got really good medical, and Penguin's like kind of like shady on the medical.
I mean, certainly with the labor shortages in today's economy, I think that's how it would have to work.
Which villain do you think has the best healthcare and is it 401k maybe?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that who's the richest villain? Like whoever that would be.
Ra's al Ghul, I guess.
I mean, Ra's al Ghul's got a Lazarus pit, so he's like kind of like, hey, look,
you got hurt. I can just throw you in here.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Yeah, probably him.
So yeah, I mean, like you get good on the job training. Your skills are up to date if you're working for Ra's.
Well, Ra's is probably a highly skilled henchman though, because they usually know some kind of weapon skill and karate skill.
What I'm saying. Like
yeah.
you're getting like you're a top performer in your field. Like working for Ra's al Ghul is like working for Google.
Like, do you think that like the you go for an interview and you have to like fight 5 other Ra's al Ghul people, and then they have a meeting afterward to figure out if you fought well enough?
Yeah, and then you got to design an LRU cache somewhere in between.
Yep.
It's like, well, his fighting skills are good, but his data structures and algorithms are a little suspect, so I think we should pass.
We went into a dark world. Yeah. Anything else about Batman?
It's a movie. People should see it.
It is a movie.
It's on HBO Max.
It's on HBO Max. I kind of wish I saw it in the theater because I really like the atmosphere of the sound that they did. It's pretty dope. Another reason why I might have liked this movie more than some people, I watched it as 3 separate parts because it was 3 hours long and I couldn't finish it all in one day. because of my life. And so I watched like an hour chunk, so the movie didn't feel as long to me. It felt like, almost like 3 episodes of a TV series. But anyhow, yay! And that is it. Thanks for listening to Dravs talk about his favorite superhero, Batman. I mean, if you take away Batman's toys, what is he? A billionaire playboy. If you have any questions, you reach out to us at podcast@nolifekings.com. Some Twitter account, is it No Life Kings?
MLK_podcast. And as far as Instagram goes, it's @NoLifeKings.
Nice. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk about talking to those. How you doing, by the way? I haven't talked to you in a long time. No, you don't talk to me anymore. I reach out to you all the time. You just ignore me. Yep.
It says can't even go to a movie
I was unaware that the other Batman took steroids. Not any of the Batman took steroids. Steroids, or was it human growth? I doubt.
Actually, you know what? I don't think the movie did either. Kilmer probably not either.
Well, it's because Bale does that stupid thing of, I'm going to lose 300 pounds for this role. I'm going to gain 300 pounds for this role.
Then you and I must die.